And we're off and underway. Here comes the chase behind. This is a good move now. Lining himself up to the sprint. Is he going to take the stage? Yes, he is.
Hello, welcome to the start of the 2023 Tour of Britain here in the shadow of what used to be called the GMEX in Manchester. We've got shadows because it's a really sunny day in Greater Manchester today, not something you normally expect in this part of the world. So the omens are good after what was a fairly challenging race last year.
When are they going to start to sprint? Have they left it too late? Pidcock trying to get round them. And Bonu gets a gap. A powerful acceleration. One big attack when it mattered. A fantastic victory. Woods at the line, who takes the victory. Here comes Pidcock with a charge. Just about there. Bonu takes the win. Mears for Border Hansgrohe.
With the Queen's death bringing last year's race to an abrupt end at stage 5, it meant Gonzalo Serrano didn't get his winner's jersey. That instead was presented to him today before the start of this year's race. Fingers crossed we get the full 8 stages of racing this year, and with the forecast meant to be pretty good actually, a proper Indian summer. No excuse to not come out and join us between now and Caerphilly. Let's have a look at the full route map now.
Greater Manchester hosts the Tour of Britain Grand Depart in 2023 before moving south to the first of 2 stages with the start and finish in the same location and the Wrexham stage. The riders then head cross-country to Yorkshire and one for the sprinters with Goole to Beverley. Robin Hood Country hosts stage 4 from Sherwood Forest to Newark to mark the halfway point of this year's tour. It's then on to an all Felixstowe affair as stage 5 loops through the Suffolk countryside. A short hop down to Southend-on-Sea and westward to Harlow completes the Tour's eastern doubleheader for stage 6. Gloucestershire's first ever full stage of the Tour will see the riders head from Tewkesbury to the historic Gloucester Docks for stage 7, before the final stage from Margam Country Park brings the Tour to a close in the shadow of historic Caerphilly Castle.
A great pleasure to say I've been joined here in Manchester with none other than our most successful Paralympian of all time, Dame Sarah Storey. Sarah, lovely to see you again. Can we get a shot of the shoes as well, by the way? Look at those. Just confirming gold medal winning status. But let's put to one side the athletic achievements, Sarah, for a second and talk about the day job and what you're trying to do here in Manchester for cycling.
Yeah, so I'm the Active Travel Commissioner for Greater Manchester, a job I've had for nearly 18 months. I came here from South Yorkshire, a job that Ed Clancy now has. We're passing it around the ex-cycling team, mates, I suppose you could say, and this was the role that Chris Boardman had. And we're stood here on Deansgate, and in 3 short years' time, this should be one of the flagship schemes for Greater Manchester, for Manchester City, and evolving the opportunity for everyone to cycle, not just the professionals.
Mm-hmm. Because we know through your experience as an athlete, if people see you achieve, they want to follow suit. And the same applies when it comes to just riding any bike anywhere, right?
That's absolutely right, and we know that if you can see it, you can believe it for yourself. And we have here today, we've had youngsters riding up and down here on Deansgate. Just behind our cameraman, we have some non-standard cycles, some side-by-side tandems, some trikes.
But if we do get those kids on bikes, travelling around for whatever reason, that is when you start to identify the future talent, the future Ed Clancy's and the future Sarah Storeys as well.
It certainly can be, and if it's that, how do you get into a sport? Well, I got into a sport cycling to school. I remember a teammate of mine who rides for Ireland, she just commuted to work and suddenly realised that she was actually overtaking everybody on the way in, got in touch and said, how do I get onto a trial? How do I find out how good I am? And we know that people will start in all sorts of different ways, but if they can start in a local park with lots of people who are supportive and helping them, and the same applies for non-standard cycles. So we didn't have a female trike rider at the World Championships in the Great Britain team. We have had in the past, but we'd like to see someone in the future, for example. So it might be someone who has cerebral palsy, who has struggling with their balance. A youngster might think, actually, that's something I'd like to do in the future. So we can translate the everyday cycling into cycle sport, and we can also translate it back, because I use my commute to work as part of my training.
I bet you do, I have no doubt. Sarah, stay there for the time being, because let's hear from some of those riders who undoubtedly overtook everybody when they were kids, the best riders at this year's race.
The whole idea of me wanting to come here to the Tour of Britain is, to have a race at home and just enjoy racing and not really come with any pressure. Having a good time always is better if you're winning, so of course we're going to try and do that at the same time. When the day comes that I retire from the sport, I'd like to be able to have the Tour of Britain on my palmares.
I think the main rival normally would be Tom, and you never know if we get surprised by a young British rider from another team. So as a team we will more focus on the sprints with Olaf, and then the GC will be something to focus on basically from the last weekend. So it's definitely a different dynamic, and it's how it is, and it's still interesting to have a super good sprinter in our team. So we will have work to do every day, and always a goal to take the stage win.
Hopefully, I've got a few opportunities for myself this week, 6 or 7 sprint stages. So, but also I think as a professional rider, it's my role as well to teach these younger guys, because I was in this position a few years ago when I was being taught by the likes of like Jake Stewart and Connor Swift at Tour of Britain, and because of the parkour with the 6 sprint stages, it's really brought a lot of sprinters here. I think it's better because if you win a stage or you get a good result in a stage, you're beating like good sprinters, which makes it even more special.
Sarah, of course, it would be great to see the women's tour coming through Manchester, maybe one day, but just thinking about some of the riders that are going to be gracing this street in the next hour or two, who excites you the most?
I'm really excited to see Tom Pidcock here on Manchester roads. Obviously, he had a fantastic World Championships in Glasgow earlier last month, so it's going to be exciting to see what happens with Tom today.
There's nothing he can't do, right? I know you're a trackie, brilliant on the road as well. He obviously mountain bike, cyclocross and road as well. Is it a good thing to be multidisciplined, do you think?
I really have enjoyed being a multidiscipline athlete. I was as a swimmer. I did every single stroke and an individual medley. I think it keeps training very interesting. It allows you to, switch things up. And also, for someone like Tom, he can race year round, which is really important for some athletes.
Sarah, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Let's have a look at today's stage right now.
Stage 1 of the 2023 Tour of Britain rolls out of Altrincham, 19 years on from being the starting point for the first edition of the race. The 163-kilometre stage then heads northeast, taking in a sprint at Hazel Grove before the first of 2 KOMs at Grains Bar. It's then on to the legendary climb, the Ram's Bottom Rake, which reaches a gradient of 23% at its steepest point. The final 70k sees the riders face a series of sharp descents as the peloton heads back towards Manchester before finishing on the world-famous Deansgate in the heart of the city. Located in the Greater Manchester borough of Trafford, Altrincham has reinvented itself as a gastronomic destination, and its high street was named the best high street in England in 2018. Trafford itself has become a byword for sport, and the borough also boasts excellent parks and green spaces as well as thriving town centres. Manchester is of course one of Europe's fastest growing cities and is quickly becoming one of the most popular visitor destinations on the global scene. The opening stage of this year's Tour of Britain finishes on Manchester's historic Deansgate in the heart of the city centre, surrounded by a thriving foodie scene. Perfect to recharge after an exciting day's racing.
Okay, that's enough looking ahead. Let's get straight to the racing now with the commentary team of David Miller and Ned Bolting.
Thanks, Matt. Well, they have rolled out from the centre of Altrincham. They've got around about 4.5 kilometres to go until the flag will drop, and then we'll expect the attacks to come. And bearing in mind, we've only got sort of 3 or 4 teams with real top-class World Tour top sprinting talent. and a lot of other teams who would be speculating that at the very best they could expect maybe a top 3 finish if it does come down to a bunch sprint. I think that does leave, of the 16 teams that start, plenty of teams who will be targeting the breakaway today, because that's all realistically they can expect to get out of the day. So it could be quite a dynamic start.
Yeah, I think it's for St Piran, one of the teams for whom this is the biggest race on their calendar for the year, and all of their season in many ways will have been based around this race. So you'd be very surprised not to see them being some of the protagonists in making this race happen, and that will be the same every single day from them.
There's a glimpse of the various different jerseys that we're going to get accustomed to seeing over the first over these 8 stages, and in the white there from Great Britain, that is Ollie Wood, I think, who is the reigning British Criterium champion, a title which he gained up in the northeast in June. Well, Ineos Grenadiers showing themselves at the front, which means that they will be keeping a very close eye on which riders get up the roads, and when the breakaway goes, they're going to have to make sure that there's not too many of them and that they're not too good, for want of a better word, because this could be a difficult day to control, and certainly back-ended, it is going to be very dynamic indeed. They're leaving behind Altrincham, and Manchester is around about 164 kilometres up the road. Through kilometre 0 then, the flag drops, the race gets underway, and instantly the attacks come. And they come from St Piran, TDT Unibet, and the Kiwi team, Bolton Equities Black Spoke, who have a number of British riders in their ranks. Off they go. So the expected teams straight away forcing the break. Global 6 as well in that green kit, trying to get in the move, and Uno X's Martin Bouguer. But this could be a prolonged battle on these narrow, winding roads just to the south of Altrincham.
Yeah, you can see Luke Rowe, the road captain for Ineos Grenadiers, just surfing around the front there, knowing that they're not being complacent. They can't just think that a small break's going to go and then it's going to be controlled for a sprint. They want to make sure there's no splits, and that's Luke Rowe's job, to monitor, keep an eye on things. Oh, a crash.
Yeah. It's one of the TDT Unibet riders, and that looked nasty. That's the Dutchman, Martin Budding, who's gone down. It looked like it's an isolated incident, all scuffed up on his left leg there and ripped on his right shoulder. That looked like a sore one.
Just needs to get that checked before he gets back on the bike.
Meantime, the race is fully engaged. I think that might have been Ryan Christensen, who's off the front for the Bolton Equities Black Spoke team. A little group of 4 have gone clear now.
St Piran chasing, making sure they do not miss the move.
Yeah, that's Harry Tanfield on the move now this time, in the light blue jersey of TDT Unibet. Well, Uno X, Harry Tanfield of TDT Unibet, and 2 riders from St Piran. I can't work out at the moment who they are. If they get across to James Fouché, then that's 5 riders up the road, which is kind of the size of breakaway you probably would have expected on a day like today.
Yeah, and this is where you see the difference. The World Tour teams are content with this. They will, on these like narrower roads, just trying to block it, and it does look like that this break has succeeded in snapping that elastic relatively early on.
Harry Tanfield finds himself on the front. Jack Rutkin-Gray on his wheel in the black of St Piran. Then comes Frederick de Vesnes in the red and yellow of Uno X. St Piran with the advantage potentially that they can use 1 or 2 of their other riders, of their 2 riders, as a lead out. Jack Rutkin-Gray is rider number 95, the slightly smaller of the 2 riders. Zeb Kiffin perhaps the faster in the sprint, I would perhaps suggest, given the nature of the riders they are. They're both really good climbers as well.
500 metres to go to the sprint. See the...
James Fouché is definitely interested in the purple.
Yeah.
You can see his body language there. Some of the riders on the hoods. James Fouché already on the drops. So too is the Norwegian. And Harry Tanfield, knowing what we know about Harry Tanfield, will try and get in the mix here, surely. He finds himself on the back, which perhaps in this small group is not the worst place to be at all. And he does have a seated, very powerful sprint, Harry Tanfield. We know about that.
Yeah, very much the track rider he is. He relies on that sprint. Here we go, you can see it there.
Following the wheel of James Fouché, just marking that move. So those 2 off the front, no
Fouché
one else interested. Fouché, no measure for Harry Tanfield at the moment. Tanfield picks up the sprint and takes to 10 points at Hazelgrove.
Well, Fouché got completely caught out there. He thought he had everything clear on his right shoulder, not seeing Harry Tanfield, who jumped on his left. And so I think he actually thought that he had it all under control.
Yeah. It's quite hard. It's quite amazing that a rider as big as Harry Tanfield managed to squeeze through that gap unnoticed as well. There isn't a next one, Harry.
Yeah, nice play.
Brilliant. That was very funny. Not every rider is as fully briefed as you might imagine. You can have the
next one
tomorrow.
I was like, when is the next one?
It is tomorrow. And here's confirmation of the result at the only intermediate sprint of the day. Harry Tanfield taking 10 points, James Fouché 7. Really, only those two riders were actually contesting the sprint, and Tanfield just creeping up to the left of James Fouché. Frederick Dversnes then crossing the line in third place with the pair from St. Piran in fourth and fifth. On to the climb they go then. It's the first categorised climb of the day. It is Grains Bar. It's 2.7 kilometres in length, which isn't much, and the average gradient is 5.5%. But like all climbs in the Peak District, there's going to be a lot of wobbling variation. It's not a steady 5.5% or anything like it. That's much more than 5% where they are here. And then it just appears to flatten off slightly ahead of them, and then you can see in the distance just kicks up again in terms of the gradient. So picking up the Harry Tanfield's data, he's already putting out over 400 watts.
Yeah, and there you can see the disadvantage he has with the size he has, because obviously the heavier you are, the more power you need to get up these, and this is where, being a big rider in the hills, you're so inefficient, and that's where Harry Tanfield just has to, with that high cadence of his, because sitting at 100, over 100, I mean, that's a high cadence by any standards, but for a big guy, that's how he's just trying to save his legs, save his muscles as much as possible by just minimizing the strain put on them.
I have a distant memory, David, of that edition of the Tour de Yorkshire where he took the victory on stage 1 and was in the leader's jersey, therefore on stage 2. And it was a particularly hard day in the Yorkshire Dales, wasn't it? And Tanfield coming to a virtual standstill on one of these short, sharp climbs, weaving from side to side. He's just physiologically, as you said, at a complete natural disadvantage vis-a-vis every other rider in this group.
Yeah, it's one that he has to manage, because obviously he's at an advantage on the flat sections. On the fast flat, that's where he is very much requiring less effort to do what the others have to, but then it's not really in a fair balance, because when it comes to the climbs, he is at a serious disadvantage.
Now, let's see how the peloton is going to behave on this climb. It's not the key climb of the day. They come much later in the final 70 kilometres. But if Ineos Grenadiers are really determined to make this hard for Jumbo-Visma and therefore for everybody else today, it'll be interesting to see how they approach this. They're not going to attack, but they might just ride it harder than you could imagine. And if that time gap continues to come down at the pace that it is, 1 minute and 56 seconds, so 10 seconds have been shaved off it pretty quickly, then we'll know that Ineos Grenadiers are actually working this climb. Kiffin looks round, sees where Rootkin Gray is, and opens up almost a slow motion attack, but it's a good one. Zeb Kiffin goes early. James Fouché quite comfortably closes the gap to the young Briton, Zeb Kiffin, and the New Zealander has got him where he needs him. And we know that Fouché's got a vicious sprint on him. Should be able to get this, should he? Yeah, comfortably in the end. Zeb Kiffin beaten. James Fouché rides away. Where's that line though? Has he gone a bit too early? Oof, little way to go still. Can Kiffin get back on terms? No, he can't. One more injection of pace will get the job done from James Fouché. And the New Zealander takes 6 points in the King of the Mountains competition from Kiffin in second place, who takes 5.
Yeah, that was an interesting move from St. Piran, going out so early when perhaps it wasn't so necessary, but perhaps they're just aware of what they can do. Fouché giving a little fist bump there. I think these riders will know each other very well, so they're kind of not completely sure of what the abilities are of each another. But Fouché rode that, controlled that with ease.
No attempt to get on terms, perhaps surprisingly, by Frederick Dversnes, who didn't feature there at all. That does surprise me.
that was essentially a lead out given to Fouché, and he wins it with ease.
Yep. Just a sense here that Kiffin might be able to find a rhythm and just close the gap again, but one further acceleration and a glance back, and at this point he knows that the job is done. And the New Zealander, riding for a New Zealand team, making their debut at this Tour of Britain, managed or directed by Greg Henderson, a New Zealander who knows this race extremely well, takes the first significant prize of the day, the only Cat 2 climb of Grains Bar. Some way to go to the top of the climb still for the bunch. So Jos van Emden scoops up, incidentally, that final King of the Mountains point. Confirmation of the order over the line, and Jos van Emden from the peloton picking up the 1 point. Tanfield, the last of the riders of the break, just behind Frederick Dversnes, Jack Rutkin-Gray, and Zeb Kiffin picking up third and second respectively, and James Fouché maximum 6 points at Grains Bar. It's the rake which is effectively for these riders the finish line, and James Fouché will hope to seal the deal in the King of the Mountains competition and get himself that jersey at the end of the day. His primary threat is one of the two riders from St Piran.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, because we might see as well, like we did on the previous climb, Harry Tanfield setting the pace, trying to keep it together as close to the summit as possible so that he isn't distanced, and that would suit the breakaway as well, because they don't want to be playing games in the climb and losing time. So the higher tempo they can keep up it ahead of the sprint itself is what they need to do.
Well, it's called the Ramsbottom Rake, and this is Ramsbottom that they're passing through now. Again, huge support by the side of the road. Going to need all the morale that they can muster for the test to come. Not far now until they hit the rake. And here it is indeed. Ramsbottom Rake. Category 1 climb, one of the hardest tests that this relatively muted in terms of climbing edition of the Tour of Britain has to offer. Well, here on stage 1 is a Cat 1 climb, and this is steep. The average gradient to this kilometre is 10%, but there are sections within that are a proper wall. Towards the top, there are 20% gradients plus. And exactly as you predicted, David, Tanfield moves to the front and does the pace that he is comfortable with.
Yeah, it's in his interest. He's only really got one pace. It's his tempo or he'll be dropped. So he's just going to ride the tempo. It's up to Kiffin here in number 94 just to sit on the wheel of the rider most likely to win this.
Well, that's James Fouché. Raced it before, 4 years ago did James Fouché. So too did Harry Tanfield. I'm sure the two British riders from St Piran will know this climb. I'm not so sure that Frederick Dversnes will know what to expect from this climb, because it does get very steep towards the top. But you're absolutely right. Zeb Kiffin, rider 94, is just sitting there watching that purple jersey of James Fouché, the New Zealander. What role can Jack Rutkin-Gray, his teammate, play for him?
Well, if Rutkin-Gray's got the legs, then you would hope that he would try and attack beforehand to draw Fouché out. But again, it's hard to apply tactics if you don't have the legs, and this climb's going to be all about the legs.
500 metres to go. This is the hardest part of the climb coming up. And now Tanfield, rather ominously for him, has kind of drifted to the back of that group. Still there, still definitely in touch, and just spinning a very, very small gear. Staying in touch for now as Dversnes sets the pace on the front. Fouché's waiting. Way, even though we're 400 metres to go, it's way too early to hit out, given the severity of the gradients around this corner and beyond, still to come on this climb. As now the peloton is on the climb as well.
That time gap has gone up, so they did build the buffer on that fast bit of the descent. As you say, I think no one's going to want to move in this climb until they can see the summit.
So another feature of this climb is the road gets incredibly narrow towards the top. It's a real, almost a single track. And we're hearing that there are people in massive numbers at the top. So the crowd, I was speaking to people a couple of days ago, and I think everyone has identified this spot to come and watch the race. That's the scene at the top. And there is the Berry Clarion gazebo, the red one, where John Yates is waiting with his club mates. Tanfield now really starting to suffer. Look at that gradient round that little hairpin.
Oh, Fouché's gone, so he has gone early. Kiffin doing a good ride, trying to hold on the wheel there, but Fouché has a gap.
Yeah, he does. At the front of the race, that's where it's happening. It did look like Kiffin's reaction was sharp, though, but no, Fouché's got a good few bike lengths there. Kiffin now only now coming around the corner. It looks like Fouché's got this. Tanfield still in contention. Rootkin in this group. Rootkin Gray is the rider in front of him. Ahead of him, Frederick Dwesnes, but this is the winner of this climb. Once again, it's James Fouché, so he will be the king of the mountains at the end of the day. One more check over his left shoulder, 10 points in the bank. Thank you very much. James Fouché has proved to be by far the strongest climber in this group, and quite comfortably in the end dispenses with the challenge of Zeb Kiffin, who finishes in second place and picks up 9 points, so 16 the tally for the New Zealander, who enjoyed that. Dwesnes over the line with Rootkin Gray and Harry Tanfield just a second or two behind him. Those 5 will get together on the descent over the climb. And in around about 1.5 minutes, we'll see the bunch up and over Ramsbottom Rake.
Yeah, so it's in the interest of this group that they do all come back together. So Fouché and Kiffin up ahead, they need to just ease off a little bit, let it all regroup, and then get back into the rotation that they had before. Well, it looks like the peloton is quite happy, just letting Ineos Grenadiers set the pace. Ineos Grenadiers not riding an aggressive race here.
Yeah, don't forget there are points available for the first 10 over the line, so there are first 5 from the bunch will also score King of the Mountains points. Mark Donovan it is who's on the front, the Cumbrian rider in the grey colours of Q36.5 Pro Cycling. So Donovan, I'm sure, would be interested in King of the Mountains points there. That's the reason that he, I think, has moved up towards the front, or he's also the general classification hope for Q36.5, so it could be that he's serving 2 ambitions, keeping himself safe there, but it also might be minded just potentially to dart out and scoop up those 5 points for 6th place over the climb.
Luke Rowe holding his position, even after being on the front for over 2 hours. Don't think anyone's going to fight him for those points.
All very controlled. And over the top they go. So no fireworks from the peloton. Luke Rowe with the Ineos Grenadiers just keeping a lid on everything. If the attacks are going to come, they're going to come a little bit closer to Manchester. Here's confirmation of the rake and the order over the line. James Fouché essentially sealing the King of the Mountains competition, at least for today, and taking that black jersey onto the podium, assuming he finishes ahead of Zeb Kiffin. So it's the same 1-2 as at the first climb. Harry Tanfield, the last rider from the breakaway over the line. And then you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 Ineos Grenadiers crossing the line in 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th place respectively. And Mark Donovan just popping out there and picking up one King of the Mountains point for 10th place.
A little bit sketchy from Harry Tanfield as he misread a corner in the village of Egerton, but his great bike handling skills managed to keep him upright.
I wasn't meant to be here, but oh god, it's just terrible. Bad legs. Be better for the next few days though.
He then called it a day, leaving 4 riders out front. Soon after, James Fouché also slipped backwards, leaving 3 leaders as we approach the closing stages of the first day's racing.
Movistar are getting a bit closer to the front. You can see 5 of those blue jerseys of Movistar. They're riding for Fernando Gaviria, who's had a scratchy kind of form book in 2023. That's him moving up on the outside, I think. Just dicing with those parked cars at the side of the road. Well, maybe that's not Gaviria, actually, but they're moving him closer to the front. He's their man for today. And if, for whatever reason, Gaviria isn't feeling it, the legs aren't there today, don't rule out the possibility they'll flip their tactics and race instead for Max Canter, their German sprinter. They are one of the few teams with a genuine plan B in terms of the sprint. Yeah, Pidcock and Van Aert are obliged to race this as far. You know, if Wout van Aert wants to sprint, effectively he might end up pushing Olaf Koy very close. Yeah. I mean, it's unusual, and it's a facet of the fact that there are no time bonuses, and the parcours has been designed in the way it is. So there's a few imponderables and unknowables that will only be answered when we get to Deansgate.
Well, one of the most interesting things is we're going to get to see how Tom Pidcock handles himself in an absolute bunch sprint.
Yeah.
Because he's going to have to be part of it.
I mean, at a very different level, I've seen him win races in criterium races, but that's a very different matter from handling a big bunch sprint at the end of 160 kilometres in a city centre boulevard finish, isn't it?
I think I remember last year's Tour of Britain he did a bunch sprint and was right up there in second or third.
Yeah.
So he's certainly got it in him.
Moving up in those light blue jerseys, Harry Tanfield's team are making an appearance towards the front, TDT Unibet. Don't know, if I'm honest, which of their riders they might favour in the bunch sprint today, but they're positioning themselves well towards the front. And there's a showing as well from the Q36.5 Pro Cycling team, the Swiss registered team. And they're going to be riding for the Polish sprinter Simon Zajnok today. Or if he's not feeling good, they've got a young Italian sprinter called Niccolò Paresini. And another Italian to look out for is in the yellow of Bingol WB, which we've seen very little of, actually, the yellow and red kit. Davide Persico, and if you follow your racing closely, you might recognise the surname Persico because his older sister Silvia Persico is one of the best riders in the World Tour peloton for women. And her much younger brother, Davide, is just making his way in the sport, and he's being moved up in those yellow jerseys down the centre of the road at the bottom of your screen now.
Interesting to see that Wout van Aert is just sitting on the wheel of the Ineos Grenadier team. He has three riders now in the front leading that peloton, but he's chosen just to hold back and use Ineos Grenadier.
Yeah, it's a good bit of positioning from TDT Unibet. They've got four riders right up alongside the Ineos Grenadiers.
Rider from Trinity there, just at the bottom of the screen. So are they managing to move up? They are. They've got the whole team there. So Trinity Racing are doing a good job, holding back, being patient.
Very good. They were at the back, but Lamperty's being moved into a slightly more propitious place as we're well inside the final 10 kilometres now, 7.8k to go. There's a blue jersey of Trinity on the left-hand side of the road.
He's lost his team. He did have the team on his wheel before, so hopefully his teammates are just informing him that he's now benefiting another team.
Yeah, you're right. Lamperty has got a lot of protection there. Just a glimpse of those blue jerseys, about halfway down the line, but definitely making the right move towards the front for the young American. And almost counterintuitively, that gap has gone back out to 30 seconds for the three riders. Let's not forget about them. Still got to catch and pass those three riders with 7.2 kilometres to go. There's Wout van Aert in that distinctively different coloured sponsored helmet that he wears to differentiate him from all his other teammates.
Bora Hansgrohe moving back up again. Sensing that time gap needs to be managed.
Steven Kruijswijk, by the looks of it, is done. He's done his turn. So Eduardo Affini moves up on the wheel of, I think that's Jos van Emden, who might be doing his final turn.
Starting to get a bit more chaotic at the front. You can see the teams are breaking up. The order we've seen all day is starting to evaporate. Wout van Aert now mixing himself up amongst Ineos Grenadiers.
Fernando Gaviria's Movistar still holding that position around about 10 riders from the very front of the peloton, which is now close to within 25 seconds again, 24, 23, they're honing in. 6.4 kilometres to go. We're well inside Manchester now. Heading for this finish line in Deansgate, approaching Manchester from a westerly, northwesterly direction. Vesnes still looks really solid on the bike.
Yeah, he looks exactly the same as he did at the start of the day.
Strange, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's been a curious performance from Frederik de Vesnes. But he's one of the three remaining riders from that original 5-rider breakaway. There's a crash I'm hearing on the race radio. On the left-hand side of the roundabout, I'm hearing on race radio 1 or 2 riders appear to have gone down. We didn't see it, but didn't happen towards the front. Trinity, I'm hearing, have been involved in that crash. Don't know whether it's Lamperty. And now there's an attack, and it's come from Kiffin, Zeb Kiffin, followed with consummate ease by the looks of it by Frederick Dwesnes, but that might have dispensed with Rutkin Gray, who's just battling to stay on terms with the other 2 remaining. He's looking back now, so I think Rutkin Gray has conceded defeat, and Zeb Kiffin goes off in pursuit of individual glory, but the Norwegian looks very, very able just to go with that attack from Zeb Kiffin. 5 kilometres to go for those 2 riders at the front of the race. And there's only 11 seconds left as Edoardo Affini, the Italian time trialist, starts to set the pace for Jumbo-Visma.
Still no news on who those riders were that were involved in the crash. Hopefully for Trinity Racing it's not Lamperty.
Well, there's 2 of their riders there, neither of whom are Luke Lamperty, so we don't know about that. Rutkin Gray is about to be swept up. He has now conceded as Edie Schelling gets back onto the front for a Bora Hansgrohe. They return to do some work, and then there's 4 riders in yellow, the last of whom is Olaf Koy, the young Dutch sprinter who is the favourite to take the stage today. And in front of him, the most prestigious lead-out wheel you could possibly ask for. The completely incomparable Wout van Aert is going to be doing the job for him. And look at Fernando Gaviria being moved up on the right-hand side of the road as TDT Unibet, the Dutch team in those light blue jerseys, move up as well. Uno X making an appearance with their 2 young sprinters that they're looking after.
Yeah, this road opens right up, allowing all those teams to come up, and look, they're just going to swamp those riders who are at the front. Jumbo-Visma fighting, holding their position. They have the strength to do it, which is what they need now.
Uno X have got the right-hand side of the road with 4 riders, though, and they were, last time we saw from that helicopter shot, they were jostling with Jumbo-Visma for primacy on the road.
Jumbo-Visma holding strong on the front, but you can see this road, the way it's opened up, that's why some of the teams have been a bit more relaxed as Kiffin goes again.
Yeah, a flick of the elbow to ask him to come through, and Kiffin took that as an opportunity to attack the senior Norwegian partner, but once again, Dwesnes just looks very, very smooth in response.
Yeah, it's almost duty-bound to follow.
Rider from Bolton Equities, Black Spoke on the front now, and Movistar following this move. Rory Townsend or Matt Bostock, they'll be the sprinters for the Bolton Equities team, both of whom are capable of mixing it at this level, but they'd be outsiders to take the win. The Irishman, Rory Townsend, probably of the 2, not quite as the electric finishing speed, if he gets it right, of Matt Bostock from the Isle of Man. As Dwesnes attacks Kiffin now and goes clear, and that has put Kiffin under real pressure now to follow the wheel of the Norwegian. But look how close the bunch are now.
Movistar now taking control of the peloton. That will be to the advantage of Jumbo-Visma. They still got the riders they want at the front, and now they've got the help, if you like, of Movistar.
Yeah, and Fernando Gaviria, the Movistar sprinter, has dropped to the back, and he's on the wheel of Olaf Koy in around about 6th place.
Yep, so he's using Jumbo-Visma, so this is actually benefiting both those teams in quite unconventional way. Bora Hansgrohe fighting furiously, trying to get up there. Niels Pollitt, I think, is now doing his job, but they're a little bit of disarray.
Hearing one of the Flanders Balois riders has crashed as well on the right-hand side of the road. We're hearing that on race radio at the back. I think it was just an isolated crash. But finally, Frederick Dwesnes has the good grace to grimace. He's shown absolutely nothing for the effort that he's had to put into this stage to this point, but he is the strongest rider in the breakaway in the sense that he's the last man standing. As Zeb Kiffin is caught, it's just the Norwegian off the front, but he's being hunted down fast now by Nathan van Hooydonk, by the looks of it, of Jumbo-Visma.
And it looked like Ineos Grenadiers, Tom Pidcock had one rider trying to move him back up again because they have slid right back down in all that battling to be at the front. Jumbo-Visma remarkably still holding that position. Other teams come and go. Movistar have gone. Is Gaviria still there? He's still just trying to fight to hold on that wheel of Olaf Koy.
Bora Hansgrohe are still there towards the front in numbers as well, but a little bit disjointed. It's a bit of a team there, a bit of the rest of it there, but Sam Bennett is towards the front and probably just about where he needs to be with his team around him.
Just looking to see Ineos Grenadiers, see if we can see Pidcock. He needs to be up there. Let's not forget, he needs to score a good position today. And there he is, he's fighting back. He's too far back at the moment, Pidcock.
So Tom Pidcock, whose positioning is all important, well, not all important, but very, very important in this race, as finally Dvesnes is caught and passed, and Jumbo-Visma are beginning to line it up. 1.4 kilometres to go. Bora Hansgrohe sees control at the front again. I think it's Ryan Mullen doing a turn on the front. Danny Van Poppel has Sam Bennett on his wheel.
Oh, look at that Uno X rider who's coming darting through. You can see this section here is just causing a bit of like the confusion. Bora Hansgrohe fighting on, pushing on. The gap's opened up. Jumbo-Visma now will use that to their advantage, but they're running out of men as well. 1 kilometre to go.
Wout van Aert just cruising around with Olaf Koy on his wheel. They're looking firmly in control still, Jumbo-Visma, still with a numerical advantage. The rest of the teams, unlike Jumbo-Visma, a little bit disjointed. Max Cantor it is, I think, is going to be emerging as the sprinter for the Movistar team, and not Fernando Gaviria. There's a Bora Hansgrohe jersey on the back of that train there on Olaf Koy's wheel. It should be Sam Bennett. I think it is Sam Bennett. So he's well placed there. He's picked the wheel of the Dutchman, and this quartet of riders have got a little bit of a gap as they head towards the finish line here in Deansgate.
Yeah, Sam Bennett's ridden that perfectly if that is him there, because it was confusion, but he somehow made it through.
So Wout van Aert takes over, leaning out Olaf Koy. That is indeed Sam Bennett with Max Cantor on his wheel. One of the Uno X sprinters as well in contention. One check there as Wout van Aert looks round to see where Olaf Koy is. Koy opening up his sprint. Olaf Koy, the pre-race favourite. Olaf Koy, the winner. Jumbo-Visma, they're a winning machine. And with Wout van Aert leading him out, Koy made that look so simple.
And Wout van Aert has hung on and got second as well. He didn't stop his sprint. So they managed to get 1-2. So got the stage, and for Wout van Aert's GC hopes, that's the perfect position for him to be in.
Wout van Aert's the consummate lead-out man, and David, he could have won that sprint on his own.
I think he was incredibly fast when he jumped.
Koy then from Van Aert, Bennett from Cantor, Ethan Vernon in 5th place, Van Poppel, the lead-out man for Bennett, holding on to 8th place. Last year's winner, Gonzalo Serrano, in the mix from Movistar. That's a good result from him. Olaf Koy of Jumbo-Visma celebrates on the podium as the race winner of Stage 1. All the riders in the top 10 and indeed further down, all on the same time with no time bonuses. Koy leads from Van Aert and Bennett. Ethan Vernon, the best British rider, in 5th place. And last year's winner, Gonzalo Serrano, is in 9th. Having led over both categorised climbs, New Zealander James Fouché of Bolton Equities Black Spoke leads in the Pinarello King of the Mountains black jersey. Olaf Koy returned to the podium again in the white jersey of the Sportive Breaks Best Young Rider.
Real pleasure to be joined here on the finish line on Deansgate by today's winner and GC leader, Olaf Koy from Jumbo-Visma. Olaf, how was the finish? What's the pressure like being led out by the legend that is Wout van Aert?
Yeah, I guess it brings some pressure, but more so confidence. To have one of the best riders in the world in front of you, that's just a massive confidence boost. And yeah, also all the other guys, we were here with a really strong team, and once we got back that break, the guys Van Hooijdonk and Affini still managed to get us into that last K, then I knew we were really on track to do what we planned actually. So once we got through the last corner, it was just a case of going all out to the line.
Although you did have Sammy Bennett on your wheel, were you aware of that and aware that you had to shake him off?
Yeah, you always know there will be someone strong on your wheel, so it's never easy. And I didn't actually look back, but it's just a matter of going all out.
Just look for the line.
Yeah.
Going to have to look ahead to tomorrow as well. Let's have a quick look at tomorrow's first stage in Wales this year.
One of 2 stages in this year's edition of the race that will start and finish in the same place. Stage 2 marks the Tour's return to the North Wales city of Wrexham for the first time in 8 years. The clockwise route travels across the border into Cheshire before returning to Welsh soil after Threepwood. The 110km stage will be the second shortest point-to-point road stage in Tour history, but with a late KOM climb at Eighton, this fast stage could end up having a sting in its tail.
Short, punchy, very fast stage we expect in Wrexham tomorrow. Olaf, have you ever been to Wrexham? Ever heard of Wrexham?
No.
Let me tell you, it's full of Hollywood stars these days because they bought the football club there. So it's a bit impressive. Are you looking forward to visiting?
Yeah, I will look around. Maybe I see someone next to the road.
You might see Ryan Reynolds. That's the guy. Seriously though, looking ahead to tomorrow's stage, only 110 kilometers, pretty flat as well. How do you think the race is going to pan out?
Yeah, it's really short stage. I guess it will be all really fast from the start, and I think a lot of teams interested to go in the break, and we need to be sharp in the start to let a good group go, and then hopefully we can repeat what we did today.
Olaf, thank you very much indeed. Dank u wel.
Thank you.
So tomorrow, join us for tomorrow's very short stage in and out of Wrexham, live here on ITV4 at 11:30. Highlights at the slightly later time of 9 o'clock. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.